Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Today we're going to continue on our series on the concise presentation of Fiqh. Today is class number 35 and part 16 of the prayer. The date today is the 9th of the 10th of Sha'baan and the 1st of March 2023. And I believe the prostration due to forgetting or missing something of the prayer.
This is Salat al-Jama'ah, I think, isn't it? We've finished everything. We'll probably forget from the Salat al-Jama'ah. Congregation just next to it.
The congregation of prayer.
No. You're just a bit louder so that the microphone can get you.
Its ruling. The congregational prayer is an obligation upon each individual who prays unless there is some valid excuse. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "By the one in whose hand is my soul, I considered ordering a stick be lit on fire, and then order the call to prayer to be made, and then command the person to leave the prayer, and myself go to the houses of those who did not attend, and burn them down. By the one in whose hand is my soul, if one of them knew that he was to gain a bone heavy with meat, or meat between two rib bones, he would have definitely attended the night prayer."
Right. Also the other hadith, Abu Hurairah.
Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that a blind man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, "O Messenger of Allah, I have no one to guide me to the masjid." He therefore asked the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to excuse him from the congregation and allow him to pray in his house. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam granted him permission. When the blind man had turned away, he called him back and asked, "Do you hear the call to prayer?" He replied, "Yes." He said, "Then respond to it."
And also the hadith of
Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu narrated that the companion of the Prophet said, "Whoever wishes to meet Allah tomorrow as
It is not from the Prophet, from the companion himself. No.
The companion of the Prophet said, "Whoever wishes to meet Allah tomorrow as a Muslim should guard these prayers whenever he is called to them. Allah sanctions for your Prophet the Sunnah of guidance, and part of this Sunnah is to perform the prayers. If you pray in your houses like those who have stayed behind and prayed in their houses, you have left the Sunnah of your Prophet. If you leave the Sunnah of your Prophet, you will be misguided. No man purifies himself well and then goes to one of the messengers of Allah, except that Allah will record for him for every step he takes a good deed, exalt him a degree, and erase him a sin. We have seen that no one would not attend the prayers except for someone who was well known for his hypocrisy. A man would come to the prayer being supported by two men until they placed him in the road."
And the last hadith.
Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Whoever hears the call to prayer and does not come to it, then there is no prayer for him unless he has a valid excuse."
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawala. The congregational prayer, the prayer with the other people. And this is a very important issue because Islam always focuses upon the unity and focuses upon that Islam will be stronger when you have somebody to support you. And the congregational prayer, Jama'ah, is even being imposed upon the Muslims, even in situation where the person would think, I think there's an excuse for us to pray on our own. And that is in the time of war. Imagine that your enemy is in front of you, or in the back of you, or on the right and the left. Imagine that you're holding whatever arm you're holding, gun or whatever, and you are trying to defend yourself or to fight the enemies. Yet the congregational prayer was not left from the Prophet. This is something in echo. Is it closed? All these microphones? These microphones, are they closed? Something here, feedback. Yeah, it's a feedback from them. Can you switch off that, Sheikh? It's your task. Because that's why it is, yes. Yeah. Nothing, no, there's something as well. Yes, there's one here. There's one at the bottom as well. Always makes a feedback. Just knock on them. Yeah. Now the sound is different. Jazakallah khair. Put that on the list. Barakallah fiqh. At the time of war, the Prophet ﷺ, he had imposed upon the companions to pray in congregation. So he was at war in the battle of number of battles. At the Battle of the Trench, Prophet ﷺ prayed Salat al-Khawf. He could have just said to the companions, each person pray on his own. But he said, no, we will pray in congregation. So much so that the companions, if the enemies were to be at the back of the Qibla, and they have to face the Qibla, that they will not pray individually, but they will pray in congregation in such a way to attain the prayer and at the same time to protect themselves. They would divide the army into two halves. One half is facing the Qibla, behind the Prophet ﷺ, and the other half is actually behind him, but yet their back is towards the Qibla. So imagine one row is with the Prophet of Allah towards the Qibla, and the other row is facing the other side of the Qibla, exactly 180 degrees. So their back is towards the Qibla. And then they will make the Takbirat al-Ihram along with the Prophet ﷺ. And then when it comes to the recitation of the Fatiha, they're still facing the other way. Ruku' still facing the other way, because when they are ruku', you could see the enemies. And Sami Allah liman hamida, Sami Allah liman hamida. When they go to sujood, those are the ones at the back facing the enemies will not go to sujood. But they're still in congregation. Imagine, we're talking about thousands companions here. So they're facing the enemies. Companion will prostrate, the one which is half of them, behind the Prophet of Allah. And then they will do first sajda, second sajda, and the other one still standing up. And then they will get up. Once they get up, the army move. The one who was behind the Prophet of Allah will go and replace the ones who are facing other than the Qibla, where their backs towards the Qibla. And the ones whom their backs towards the Qibla will take the position of the ones who were behind the Prophet of Allah. There will be a swapping, and they're still in congregational prayer. Imagine all of that movement, and they're still in the prayer. So the enemy is looking at them and said, hang on a second, these people are not praying, because they're waiting for the moment when they're all in prostration and they will beat them up or they will kill them. What are you going in and out, but they're still praying in congregation? Simple thing, you could have just said the Prophet, pray on your own. He did not. To show the importance of the one, of the congregation. So here he had given us a number of hadith. One of them is the hadith of the blind man. Blind man, he came to the Prophet, the messenger of Allah, and that was in Medina. Between me and the masjid, there's a valley, and there are trees. And it's too many snakes these days, scorpions, and I have nobody to lead me. Am I allowed to pray at home? There's a blind man, got no one to lead him. He has to cross some trees and valley and so on and so forth. There's beasts and all of that. I won't say beasts, I would just say there's a scorpions. So the Prophet ﷺ, at the beginning, he said, yeah, there's an excuse for you to go and pray at home. So he went back. But then revelation came to tell the Prophet of Allah, no. So he called for him. Come here. He's Ibn Maktoum. He's a mu'adhin of the Prophet of Allah. He said to him, do you hear the Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala falah? I mean, the call of the adhan? He said, yes. He said, then you must come. So he has to come even though he's a blind man. But we have two eyes. Now, the author of this book did not tell us upon whom this jama'ah is incumbent. He must. Upon whom? And who is excused from that? It's incumbent upon those who fulfill the following conditions. Condition number one, Muslim. So if he's not a Muslim, okay, he's not required to come to the Jama'ah. Number two, he is free. If he's a slave, he is not required for him to come to the Jama'ah. Number three, he has to be male. If it's a female, he's not required to come to the Jama'ah. Number four, he's an adult. If he's not an adult child, is not required, not compulsory upon him to make the Jama'ah. He has to be sane. If he's insane, he's not required to do any type of ibadah. And needs to be resident. If he's a traveler, is not required for him to come to the congregation. Yes, it is better for him to come to the congregation, just like it's better for the child to come to the congregation, but it's not compulsory. And then he's to be able physically able. So if he's not physically able, there's no obligation upon him. So it's not obligatory upon the person who is sick, ill, whatever. And also is to be within the reasonable encatchment area. That means he's able to hear the adhan. If he's too far, it's not required for him to come to the congregation. So he lives within a parameter where if, for example, a person to go on top of this masjid and make the adhan, how far is the adhan going to travel to without the help of megaphones and mega speakers? Normal. How far is going to reach? So the place or the time, this distance that it reaches, that's where we say it's compulsory upon you to come. But we know these days we don't have adhan outside the masajid, except for very, very limited places. And also we don't have that many masajid. We do not say to the person, well, because you don't hear the adhan, you don't have to come. Well, the person has to know that somehow he has to come to this masjid, just like the car. If it hasn't got service in the garage, the car bound to go, a banger, an old banger, because you don't service it. The heart needs to be serviced. And where you can service the heart is actually in the masjid. When you come to the masjid, you feel your iman pumps up. You feel you are reshaping your deen. You feel closer to Allah. As soon as you leave the masjid, that iman starts dropping down. And the drop down, it depends upon how much corruption that you see outside. And that's how fast you're going to be dropping down in the iman. Come to the masjid, iman will regain. SubhanAllah. So this masjid, as I said, come to it from time to time. And if you're next door to the masjid, you must come to the jama'ah. You must come to the jama'ah. It's compulsory. Also, he doesn't have a valid excuse. Doesn't have a valid excuse. So if you've got a valid excuse, you don't have to come to the jama'ah. What are the valid excuses here? Cold weather, snowing, raining, extreme heat, darkness, strong wind. All of these could be as well fear from a beast. If you have a beast, let's say you live in a desert or a jungle, fear of the beast, fear of gangsters, looters. And if you live in these countries, there's no president or head of the country, scared. Also, if the food was being cooked and present, the food is present, and you need to have food. Eat and then go to the jama'ah. Satisfy yourself. And then finally, if you are if you're bursting, you go to the toilet while it's defecation, urination, then relax yourself and then come to the prayer. And then also from those bad excuses is that you have an abnormal task. What is an abnormal task? You're looking after, for example, an ill person. You're not ill, you're looking after an ill person. Or a person who is babysitting, or a person who is guarding. So all of these abnormal circumstances, which makes it allowed for you not to attend that particular jama'ah. Now let's go to the virtues of the Salat. Virtues, is plenty of them, of congregation. He's going to mention to you one or two hadiths. Now, one.
Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a congregational prayer is 27 times better than the prayer of a person prayed individually.
Okay, so 27 times better. Abu Hurairah?
Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu also reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the prayer of a person in congregation is 25 levels better than the prayer of a person who prays. So
one companion said 27 and one companion is 25. Which one will take? Always take the upper. The one includes the other one. So if you said 25, you don't include the 27. If you said 27, it will include the 25. Always take the more. Okay, 27. Okay, but if he makes wudu, yes?
This is because when one of you performs ablution in an excellent manner and then goes to the masjid desiring only the prayer, he will not walk a step except that he will be raised a rank and a sin will be expiated. While he prays, the angels invoke prayers upon him for as long as he remains seated in his place of worship, saying, "O Allah, have mercy on him, O Allah, forgive him, O Allah, turn towards him." And you are continually considered in the prayer as long as you are waiting for the prayer. As long as you're waiting for the prayer, you are in a prayer. Also, Abu Hurairah also narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, For whoever goes out to the masjid in the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, Allah will prepare his lodging in paradise every time he goes in the beginning and end of the day.
So entertainment to paradise. Right, these are some of the virtues of the Salat al-Jama'ah. Some of the virtues, there are plenty of them. And you know that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Alaykum bil jama'ah, fa innama dhi'bu ya'kulu min al-ghanam qasiya." Hold on and stick to the congregational prayer. For verily the wolf come to the sheep which is at the back of the flock. He does not go to the flock because the flock is protected. There's a ram there, he might poke that wolf. But there's a sheep which sees on his own, it's vulnerable, weak. That wolf will go to it. Same thing, human being. If he does not come to the Jama'ah, is vulnerable. To who? To the shaitan, to his own whims and desires. Okay, that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when you travel, if you are one, you're shaitan. If two people, two shaitan. Three people, then you are a pack for traveling. Okay, so that's, of course, I mean, talking about traveling on your own in the deserts. I mean, these days when you travel in a coach or a train, or you've got hundreds of people, never mind one. By the time the Prophet of the travel the deserts, if you travel on your own, you're a shaitan. So you always, when you are having somebody with you, you have company, you have strength. Same thing with the congregational prayer. So if you have an excuse not to come here, maybe you're too far or something like this, make sure that you pray at home in congregation. So have your own allocated spot in the house for praying, and you call the whole members of the family of yours and pray there. Make sure that they pray Jama'ah. So if you pray here in the masjid, then your wife will lead there the rest of the remaining, or if you have a son or whatever, you will lead in that spot, the Jama'ah. So have congregation in the house. Do not let them pray on their own. If they do, they are vulnerable for the shaitan. Fine. Let's go down to the women.
Women attend the congregational prayers.
Loud, please.
It is permissible for women to go to the masjid and attend the congregational prayers on the condition that they avoid any kind of beautification or perfume that may stir the desires or lead to temptation. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, narrated the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Do not prevent your women from attending the masjid, and their homes are better for them." Okay,
here Prophet ﷺ, he said, yes, it is permissible for the women to come to the masjid and pray with the congregation, but they have to avoid all of those things that would bring attraction, like for example beautification of herself, or for example putting perfume. All of that would bring attraction, and the woman should not be in such a case doing so, because she's coming to the prayer and she doesn't want as well divert the attention of the men when they come to the masjid. Is not coming because of such and such gale, she's coming to the masjid. And also Abdullah ibn Umar, he said that the Prophet of Allah said, "La tamna'u ima'akum al-masajid." Do not prevent the women to come to the masjid. So the husband may not prevent his wife to come to the masjid, unless she's, as said, for example, unless she is coming out with beautification, perfume, and something else. If she wants to come to the masjid, do not prevent her from coming to the masjid. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he said this, he knows through the Quran and the Sunnah that the men, so the time will change. You will come to a time when there is a change. That's why Aisha, she said, if the Prophet ﷺ knew what the women are going to do after he had died, he would have prevented them to come to the masjid. But the Prophet of Allah does not speak of his own, he speaks of divine. But Aisha, she wants to indicate how much change had happened since the Prophet ﷺ's death until her time, which is after the Prophet of Allah. And we're talking about years of 5, 10 years. But now what can we say? The difference between the time of the Prophet and our time. She talked about the difference between the Prophet of Allah and her time. It's about 5, 10 years. Yet there's a huge difference. She said, if the Prophet knew what they're going to do, he would never let them to go out. But of course, the Prophet of Allah, he speaks from divine, and Allah knows what's going to happen. And Prophet of Allah, he said, لا تمنعوا إماءكم المساجد. The son of Abdullah ibn Umar, the son of Abdullah ibn, whom his grandfather is Umar al-Khattab. He said, Wallahi lanamna'hum. By Allah, we're going to prevent them. His father is conveying a hadith from the Prophet, and his son, Abdullah ibn Umar, is conveying a hadith from the Prophet, and his son is saying, by Allah, we're going to prevent them. He said to him, I tell you that the Prophet said, don't prevent the women from coming to the masjid. لا تمنعوا إماءكم المساجد. And you say you're going to prevent them? I Wallahi, I'm not going to speak to you. And he did not speak to him until he died. That's how the companions take the words of the Prophet to be serious. Yeah, I'm saying to you, the Prophet Allah said, and you said, you're going to prevent them? I'm not going to speak to you. And he did not speak to him until he died. And Abdullah ibn Umar, he has more than one son. Now, that son of his, he does not mean, when he said this, that he wants to oppose the command of the Prophet ﷺ. No. It's just like what Aisha, she had said, that the women had changed so much that it's better for us to prevent them to go to the masajid because of their you are khatar on me. Danger. Fill up the gas, Ikhwani. Wallahi, as much as you close possible, this is where the shaitan plays around in spots where there's a free space. Right. So the son of his, he shouldn't have said what he said, but he does not mean that he is not going to listen to the Prophet, because not listening to the Prophet is a great major sin. It's danger to be a kafir. But the Prophet, he says that this because of what had changed, taken place in his time. What do we say about our women these days? Hardly the hijab is a hijab. The hijab, ya start to shrink now, size-wise. Shrinking smaller and smaller. Yes? Smaller and smaller and smaller. Used to be before as big as a piece of this cloth on the table. Khimar. Now I'm talking about 10 centimeters in width. And even it is a see-through, transparent. You could see even the ears of the woman, you could see. Allahu musta'an. What do we say? Allahumma, may Allah protect our women. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them guidance. I mean, we are living in such a time that it's not you who's bringing up the family, everything, apart from you. Everything, school, environment, friends. So you are actually fighting not the shaitan of the jinn, but the shaitan of the ins, human being. Lots of shaitan around. Allah understand. I just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect and help us, because on our own we can't do enough. Let's go back and talk about the other hadith. The hadith, Abu Hurairah narrates that the Prophet, he said, any woman, she had put some bakhur. Bakhur means like a incense, which is the perfume. Then she should not come to the Isha. Abu Hurairah, one day he saw a woman, she's coming to the masjid and she had perfume. Where are you heading, Amatullah? Slave of Allah. Where are you going? Slave of Allah. And she's not a slave, a slave of all of us, slave of Allah. She said to the masjid, he said, Allah? By Allah? He's like astonished. You joking? You're not joking, are you? By Allah? You don't have Allah? Allah? Second time, yes, by Allah. Allah. Well, my Khalil, my closest friend, which is Muhammad, he told me, any woman, she wants to come to the masjid, she had put perfume, her prayer will not be accepted until she washes herself the wash of janaba. You know the sexual defilement? Person got sexual defilement, intercourse or something. He has to wash himself the ghusl janaba. The ghusl janaba for the women differ from the ghusl of the, from the normal ghusl. True or not? Make ghusl. So he's saying to her that the Prophet said, your prayer will not be accepted unless you remove that perfume by washing yourself a proper wash. You know that the wash sometimes will not take the perfume. Still the perfume is there. But here just to show that you should not be going up with the perfume. Do you know what is the crime that she would be doing? Prophet said, any woman, she comes out and she passes by people where people can smell her perfume, she's like what? Fornicator. she's a fornicator. It's a big crime. So the woman, she should not have a perfume that a non-mahram can smell it. Then the last hadith here, same thing. He said, "La tamna'u," do not prevent the women to come to the masajid, and let them come out tafilat. Tafilat, that means without any perfume. Right. Where is the best place for the women to pray? Now, follow. Title.
Their houses are better for them.
Houses are better for them. Here.
Although it is allowed for a woman to go to the masjid, her prayer in her own house is more excellent. Humayd al-Sa'diyah narrated that she went to the
Humayd al-Sa'idiyah. Now.
That she went to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "O Messenger of Allah, I love to pray with you." He replied, "I am aware that you love to pray with me, but your prayer in your chamber is better than your prayer in your room. And your prayer in your room is better than your prayer in your house. Your prayer in your house is better than your prayer in the masjid of your people, and your prayer in the masjid of your people is better than your prayer in my masjid." So
the Prophet is showing that the woman, more secluded she is, the better prayer is. So if she prays in her chamber, what is a chamber here? Next to her bedroom, just that spot. I mean, it's not even in the lounge where people can see, just in that spot. It's better than praying in that spot where people can see it. It's better than praying in the vicinity of her house, let's say outside in the garden. It's within her vicinity. It's better than praying in the masjid of her local masjid. It's better than praying in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. Except for one prayer. So the prayer of the woman is prayed to be prayed at home, and it is the best for her. Except for, you could say, two types of prayers. Two types. Let's include Jumu'ah. Jumu'ah for the woman is better at home. Pray the whole. First one, if there is something of knowledge after the prayer, and that the woman, she needs to learn, then it will be better to come to the masjid. So let's say we're having a class now, and you have Isha prayer. It's better for the women to come to the Isha prayer for the order of the class, not for the prayer. Second thing is, there's a prayer cannot be prayed except if it's in the masjid. There's a masjid there, it's to be prayed in the masjid. And that is the Taraweeh prayer. Taraweeh prayer, for the women, there's no Taraweeh at home as in Jama'ah. She comes and prays Taraweeh with the men, that means behind the men in the masajid. That's the only two types of prayers. Okay, just go for another 10 minutes and give the questions shots.
The etiquette of walking to the masjid.
Now, the etiquettes of walking to the masjid. Now,
Abu Qatada narrated.
just a bit louder.
Abu Qatada radiallahu anhu said, while we were praying with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he heard some men making some noise, when he had finished the prayer, he said, "What was going on with you?" They said, "We hurried to get to the prayer." So he told them, "Do not do that. When you come to the prayer, you must have calmness. That part of the prayer that you catch, pray it and complete what you missed."
Right. Go ahead.
Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "If you hear the announcing of the commencing of the prayer, walk to the prayer with calmness and dignity and do not run. That's part of the prayer that you catch, pray it and complete what you missed."
Ka'b al-Mu'jam.
Ka'b al-Mu'jam narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "When one of you performs the ablution in an excellent manner and then leaves with the intention of going to the masjid, let him not interlace his hands because he is in prayer."
Right. So here is some etiquette to learn. When we come to the Jama'ah, let's say that you've heard the Iqamah being called. Do not run. Some people, they do. You walk the normal walk. I'm not saying to slow down, but do not do something which you normally don't do if it's a normal case. Do not run. عليكم بالسكينة والوقار. Sakina means tranquility. Waqar means respect. It's unrespectful for an imam or a sheikh or a person who is known to be, mashallah, nice, to start running because he has heard the Iqamah. That's not from the etiquettes of the Sunnah. Yes, you're laughing. Why? Because you're not going to imagine somebody, what are you doing? I'm rushing for the prayer. It doesn't fit. So Sakina. Slow down. No, I'm just saying Sakina, tranquility. You don't have, you could exceed the speed a bit, but not to run. So somebody looks at you, he does not, you don't fall from his eye. Oh, I've never seen this person doing this such a thing. And then Prophet ﷺ said, قال فما فاتكم فأتموا وما أدركتم فصلوا. Whatever you come and catch up with and pray. Whatever you miss, compensate. Here the Prophet of Allah had heard, Jabal means like a clamor, noise, which is people. Right? What's happened? Messenger of Allah, we just because of Salah. He said, don't do it. لا تفعلوا. When you come to the prayer, come with sakina, come with waqar. Okay. Also, there's another thing here which has been mentioned. فَلَا يُشَبِّكَنَّ بَيْنَ أَصَابِعِهِ. To intertwine, to interlate. Fingers like this. That's not recommended if you are waiting for the prayer. Doing like this, waiting for the prayer, prayers Isha. This is a sign of an anxiety, not relaxed. There's no harm to do it, not waiting for the prayer. And there's no harm to do it if you need to demonstrate, like I'm doing now. I'm demonstrating for you. I'm not waiting. I'm just saying it is not correct to do this. Also, the Prophet ﷺ, one day in the masjid, while he was waiting for the prayer, he mentioned the following hadith: Al-mu'minu lil-mu'min kal-bunyan al-marsus wa shabbaka bayna asabihi. Prophet, he said, the believer to the believer like a brick supporting another brick. Then he intertwined between his fingers in the masjid. So here he wanted to demonstrate, but to intertwine just for the sake of intertwining or interlating, it's not right before the prayer. So alhamdulillah, we have done up to here. We will say to you as well, it is better for the person to pray in the masjid if it's even far away. Banu Salama, when the Prophet ﷺ purchased the land, well, he took it for free, and he put the masjid of his in there. Banu Salama wanted to leave their dwellings where they live and to relocate their dwellings next to the masjid. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Banu Salama, diyarakum tuktabu lakum atharukum. Stick to where you are. The traversing of the space, the places that you do, it will be recorded for you. I mean, the steps that you make from your house, which is, yes, I understand it's too far, it will be recorded for you. And I'm not saying for a person who is next to the masjid to sell his house and then relocate himself far away in order to get his steps being recorded. But I'm just saying for the one who is already far, don't worry if you are far because you're getting more reward. Okay? Same thing when we say, Prophet of Allah, he said, ثلاثة كفارة, 3 expiators, which is the hadith of Qisam al-Mala'i al-A'la. The highest inhabitants of the heavens, they were disputing, the angels. Which one has got the most expiators? Then the Prophet ﷺ, he said that those first, قال إسباغ الوضوء على المكاره, to make wudu in the time of difficulty. The water is cold. That's really sin expiators. Again, this is water cold. You got it, and you've been patient, you endured the coldness of it, and you made wudu with it. It doesn't mean with the normal water or the heated water, put it in the fridge and start making wudu with it. See, same thing. So if you are living out close to the masjid, don't settle your house then to live far away. But if you're living far away, then more reward. If you've got your cold water, don't heat it up. Sorry, if you've got heated water, don't make it freezing. But if you've got freezing water, if you can use it, then use it, and you will be a sin expiator. The masjid which is big is always better than the masjid is small. The masjid has got more ilm and knowledge, better than the masjid has got no ilm and knowledge. Okay, so always use it. The masjid which has decoration and is going to be a distortion for you, no focusing except on the decoration, don't go to that masjid. Go to the masjid which is free from decorations. Masjid Ahl Sunnah better than the Masjid Ahl Bid'ah, of course. And the more bid'ah it is, the more maybe prohibited for you to go and pray in these masajid. Right, we'll stop here, inshallah. I'll give you the next 10 minutes for questions and answers. Now, if you have any questions, please go ahead. And by the way, we have continuation. Class is going to be weekly. Where should the women pray the Eid Salah? The women, they pray in the musalla, not in the masajid. But if the prayer of the Eid is to be in the masjid, then they pray in the masjid. Okay, so when we said the prayer of the masjid is two types, we said the masjid because we don't the prayers of these, for example, of the Taraweeh, it's in the masajid. But the musallayat, the Eid is supposed to be in the outside the masjid. So they will go. And the Eid prayer is compulsory to come to it according to the one of the two authentic opinions, because we have opinion which says it's not compulsory. But the Prophet of Allah, Hadith Atiyah, she said, Amarana Rasulullah, Rasulullah commanded us, and nukhrij fi yawm al-Eidain, to bring out in the days of the Eid, al-awatiq wal-huyyada wa dhawat al-qudur wal-mukhabba'a. So even the one who's menstruating, she doesn't pray, but she comes to witness the gathering. The one who is awatiq, small virgin, dhawat al-qudur, the one who never came out, al-mukhabba'a, hidden, doesn't come out. All of them come out. Even if one of them doesn't find herself a dress, فَلْتُلْبِسْهَا أُخْتُهَا مِنْ جِلْبَابِهَا. Let one of her friends, sisters, to give her, to borrow a jilbab, a dress to come out with. Why? This is the gathering. Prophet said also, لِيَشْهَدْنَا دَعْوَةَ الْخَيْرِ, in order to witness the gathering of good. And then also the same time he said, وَلْتَعْتَزِلْ الْحُيَّضْ الْمُصَلَّى. But the ones who are menstruating, let them avoid the salah. Let them avoid the salah. Musalla here means the salah. Now. تفضل.
So basically the other day I was praying behind someone in congregation, and then they just stopped saying the actions out loud. So every time I said Allahu Akbar, they just stopped saying it out loud. What you were to do that.
Again. So you're praying behind someone.
Yeah, you know how to say Allahu Akbar when you go with them. But this guy, he just stopped saying it out loud.
So he prayed with him,
Yeah.
and suddenly he lowered his voice.
I think he's started saying quietly to himself.
See, he doesn't want you to join him, basically.
No.
That's what it looks like.
So
was it in a masjid?
No, it was at uni. So I was already praying behind him.
Okay.
Put the speaker up. He was saying it out loud at first, normally. And the second guy, he just stopped. I think he was.
So how can I? I'm not a.
So what am I meant to carry on following him?
Okay. So you are in a place where it is not a masjid. You're not supposed to make a jama'ah in a masjid except for the first jama'ah. So if you see the person in the masjid to pray, don't join him in jama'ah unless it is the main jama'ah. Okay. But you're saying in the university, which is not a masjid, and you have followed him, and then suddenly this guy, he's not really the imam, he's not doing loud takbir in order for you to follow him. Okay, what should I do? And there's two ways of doing this. Either that you, for example, follow him as much as you can, but by saying yourself, Allahu Akbar, to give him an indication that he should be, because maybe he's ignorant. Say Allahu Akbar, so he will understand now he has to learn higher his voice. And then we say, Sami Allahu liman hamida, to make him wake up, maybe. Second option is to depart from it, detach yourself from him.
You can do that.
Yes, you can detach yourself from him. When you detach yourself from him, khalas, you're on your own. Now, anybody's going to ask a question? Ikhwani, tfaddal. Let me just ask the online. Tfaddal ya Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Salam wa barakatuh.
I wanted to ask Sheikh, what is the definition of free mixing?
Free mixing, or call it disaster mixing. Mixing in such a way that there is in a way that there is kashf al-awrat first, which is the exposure of the awra. Number two, that the women, they start talking in a way that would seduce, in a sexual way, lowering voice, and start to smile and sway and give a hint that she's available for chit-chatting. That's a mixing as well. And also that the woman, she's not she's got perfume, things which is attraction. But there's no such thing that is called free mixing. That is, let's say that you and your brother are married to two women, and these two women are well dressed up, and you're eating together. So you and your brother eating along with your wife and his wife, that's allowed. Okay, it's like a family gathering. As long as I said, there's no exposure of the awra, especially the hands and all of this. And the woman, she's making sure that she is not having words with the other husband, which is not her husband. Okay, with the other person who's, you know, in his own. She can't have some sort of a time or a place where she could be talking to him on his own. Then there's no problem. So that's called the mixing, which is not allowed now. Is that okay, ya Hassan? Where is Hassan gone? Hassan?
Yeah, sorry, Sheikh, it wasn't letting me unmute. Yeah, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh.
Let everybody unmute themselves. Yeah. Let everybody unmute themselves. Now, Jazakallah khair. Fine. Let me just do that. Allow everybody. Any other questions? Fine. Any question from here? Fadal? Doctor.
This applies only for Salah, or when you go outside, sometimes you go to the beach and you have Quran playing around, and you're talking to him, you listen to him and concentrate, or only in Salah.
So the question is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنُ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا. If the Quran is to be recited, then listen to it and be quiet. فَاسْتَمِعُوا, and then also أَنصِتُوا. Now I'm going to, is this the question, is this applied only to the prayer? Or is it applied as well when you go to somebody who's got the Quran running around and you know, go to the butcher or whatever shop it is, got the Quran there running? What should we do? This Quran which is being recited is supposed to be, we should listen and should be quiet. We should not be making a noise so other people can't hear the Quran unless it is a necessity. It's not just limited to the prayer. It is not limited to the prayer. So if the Quran is to be recited in a place, we tell these people either you put the Quran off. If you want to put it on, then you cannot make it as like the background music. Do you understand the background music? You've got background music. So it became a background Quran. It's not correct. You could make dua, put dua, no problem. Put anything, but not Quran. So Quran is playing in the background, and these people talking, chit-chatting. Can I have some hummus, food, you know, restaurant? Can I have some butcher meat? No, put it off. I have to listen to the Quran. I put it in the background. Some people put it as for barakah. In my country, there used to be in the morning Abdul Basit, in the evening Kulthum. Shaking their heads, yes. In the morning Abdul Basit, Quran, which is music. In the evening it was a singer, an old singer, it's called Kulthum. So singing in the evening, dancing in the morning, MashaAllah, Abdul Basit. It's not for the sake of the Quran, it's actually for the sake of the customs at that time. So I would say, you could say to the butcher, please, if you didn't put it back down or whatever, take your meat and go. What you can do? It's just, you can't take your meat with saying, You have to talk. So to speak. So but we're supposed to listen to the Quran. As I said, this thing will take away the haybat al-Quran, the fear, the respect. Quran is to be there when it's the words of Allah. You should be listening. I said, Allah musta'an. So now, Allah musta'an. Especially you'll travel in the car as well. If you put the Quran on, yes, you want to talk to somebody, put it out. Put it off. And then talk to him. Now.
The hadith about the three expiators, one of them was making wudu and is typical what the other two.
So, hadith al-ikhtisam al-mala'i al-a'la, the dispute of the inhabitants, which is the angels. Prophet ﷺ, he had a vision in which Allah Azza wa Jal put his hands on top of the shoulder of the Prophet, and he felt the coldness of his hands. And he asked him, do you know, well, we didn't put hands first of all. He asked him, do you know what the disputes going on, oh Muhammad? He said, no. When he puts his hands, everything came to him. So he said, one of them, fil kaffarat. These are the two as well. Fil kaffarat. Kaffarat means expiated. Kaffarat, what are they? Isbagul wudu'i fil makarih. Making the full wudu, perfecting the wudu in the time of difficulty. And also, كثرة الخطى إلى المساجد, traversing paces to the masajid. وانتظار الصلاة بعد الصلاة, and to wait for the prayer after praying the prayer. These are the three expiators of the sins. ذلكم الرباط, ذلكم الرباط. And he mentioned the Prophet at the end that the waiting for the salah after the salah, this is the ribat. What is the ribat? Ribat, when you make jihad, sabilillah, and you encounter the enemies and you take them out from the land and you liberate it, that land becomes a Muslim land, but still the inhabitants is not Muslim. So you'll find that Muslim will put some people there to make sure that the enemies will not retake that land. So this is called ribat. So he's making ribat. He is a god. Okay, the inhabitants, we don't kick the inhabitants out of their lands. So only the soldiers will be in fighting. So we take the land, liberate it, so we have to put some people in the ribat. They're not fighting, but actually it's like they're fighting. So it's a very rewardable act. Any other question? Fadal ya Ahmed.
Jazakumullah khairan, Shaykhana. Shaykhana, we said that the congregational prayer was compulsory upon the person who's free. Shaykh, what about these people that are like servants for somebody and they send them to do a job for them? Do they have an excuse to not go to the Jama'ah?
Yeah, we are looking at each other, me and Zubair here, because your sound is going to be not really clear.
Sorry, Shaykhana. The question.
No, we have to do the masjid salah. I understood that you want to ask about servants. Is correct?
Yes, but they're not slaves. They're just working for somebody.
I didn't say slaves. I said servants. Yeah, you just asked about servants. Okay, servants is exactly like a person who is working in another field. It's an engineer, whatever. He's a servant. So they have to accommodate for the Salat al-Jama'ah as much as possible. So whether they're serving the master or the one who's the boss, they're cleaning, they have to accommodate for that Jama'ah. So if they are in a land, which we are not here, where there are lots of masajid, you'll find that place, that shop will close during the time of the prayer for them to go to the Jama'ah, true or not. But these days, we don't find it. So the person has to make his best to make the Jama'ah. So if he can't make the masjid, then in that shop, in that factory, in that place, he could make a Jama'ah as well. Okay? So if I know, for example, in some of in the Muslim countries, they do have musallayat in the school, musallayat in the factories, musallayat in the, in lots of places. I have seen it. The musallayat, they got a lot of people. And it's not just for the people who are inside the factory. Any visitor, any guest will come, they'll join in as well. In the municipality, we had as well musalla, in Muslim countries. So you must make their effort to make the Jama'ah, Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, by which we can just conclude our class. Subhanakallah bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.